In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a virtual machine from a DD image. So say you go and make a copy of a computer hard drive with a bootable operating system on it, and now you want to analyze it. So one way you could analyze it would be to create a virtual machine from this image, boot the machine, and then actually basically use the computer as it was used before you made the copy. So you can see like the files on it or programs, those kind of things, from the actual desktop. Obviously you can't, this isn't a means of complete analysis of a drive because you won't find any deleted things or anything like that, but it may be a good starting point to just find out how the computer was used. So to build a virtual machine from a DD image, we first have to convert the image into something that a virtualization software can read. So we're going to use VMware Player, and VMware Player uses VMDK files. That's the file format for virtual machine, VMDK virtual machine disk files. That's the file format used by VMware for its hard disks. So what we need to do is convert our raw DD image into a VMDK file. So before we do that, actually, I want to show you one thing that doesn't apply in this case, but applies in many other cases involving DD images. So it'd be good to sort of see how it works. In many cases, when you get a DD image of a drive or a raw image of a drive, normally these images could be huge. They could be 500 gigabytes or anything like that. So oftentimes the files will be split into many different sections, so that instead of having a 500 gigabyte file, you may have 10, 50 gigabyte files that together make up this one drive. However, if you now want to go ahead and analyze it, you may want to recombine all the files into one big image file. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to just show you how to do that. What I've done is created three simple files, each of which just has some words in it, and I'm going to show you how to combine those. And just like you could combine these files, you could combine the sections of a DD image file. So we're going to use the cat command to do this. Cat stands for concatenate, and basically what it does is concatenate files one after the other. So if you give it, say, one file, it'll just print out one file. If you give it two files, it'll print out the contents of both of those. So what we can actually do is, let me just show you what the contents of each of these files are. So like I said, if you cat one file, it'll just print out the contents of a file. And you can see each of them just contain a word or two. Now, like I said though, if you cat a couple files, it'll concatenate all the files together and print out all of them. So if we cat files 1, 2, and 3, and here I'm using a shorthand with special characters to say that I want to concatenate or give cat any file whose file name is file followed by a 1, a 2, or a 3. And if I do that, you'll see that it's basically concatenated all files. It just printed out all of them. So similarly, what we want to do is concatenate all the files, but instead of printing them to the screen, we want to redirect it to another file, which we'll call all files. And now we can see that we have a new file called all files, and if we cat that, you see that we have all the files are concatenated. So similarly, if we had a bunch of DD image section, a split DD image of a drive, we could combine them all together similarly using cat, just as we did here. So now that we've done that, I want to actually show you how to build a VM from a DD image. So what I have over here in my shared folder with my Windows host machine is a raw image I downloaded from a set of test images online. You can find the specific website and everything in the resources section of the module. But here we have a raw image of a drive. So now what we're going to do is use the QEMU-image tool right here, which will allow us to convert a raw file into a VMDK. It's a simple tool. Well, it's not a simple tool. It's kind of a complicated tool. Let me show you the man pages so you can see a little bit about what it does. You can see that it's a disk image utility, so it does performs functions on disk images. You can do a lot of things. What we're going to do is convert. So we will convert our image file into a VMDK, and later on in the man page it tells you what file formats you can use. But you can see that we can use QEMU -image convert The command is convert, followed by the command options, which you see down here, to convert this. So what we're going to do is use qemu-image convert. Actually, let me move to the right directory first. And the format we're going to use, give it that we want to convert, we're going to give it our file, the input file. We will then give it the output file format, the format that we want to convert it to, which is VMDK, and then we will tell it what the name of the output file we want to use is, we want it to create, and we'll call it ubnist1.vmdk, and we will then tell it to convert. And you will see that while it's filling, we've now started creating a VMDK file over here. This will take a while to convert. It'll probably take a couple minutes really. So in the interest of time here, I went ahead and went through this earlier. I basically ran this command a couple hours ago, and so instead of letting this finish, what I'm going to do is instead use the I'm going to use the ubnist1.vmdk that I created earlier. It's the exact same file that this would have became in a few minutes, but so that we don't have to wait for it, we'll use that one. And again, I said that it's in my shared folder, so we'll now move to my Windows side where I have VMware. And here you can see, again in my shared folder, my forensics folder, you can see that this is the raw image we were started with. This is the VMDK that we were creating, which I'm going to delete now because it has no use for us, because it's not fully complete. And instead I'm going to provide one which I made earlier. So now that we've done that, the next thing to do is make a virtual machine. And the way we're going to do this so that for compatibility and everything is what we will do is make an entirely new virtual machine with a new hard disk. And once we've created that machine, we'll go ahead and flip out the hard disk. So instead of using the hard disk that that VMware will create for our virtual machine, we'll flip it out for the one that we converted over here. So let's go ahead and make a new machine, and we will not install an operating system. Since we don't know the format of our operating system on our converted image, we'll just leave it as other and other. You want to give it the same name that you had before, so it's going to be ubnist1. That way the VMDK files will have the same we're not going to need such a large disk size here, a maximum disk size, since our entire the disk we're flopping it out for is only about 1 gig, so let's just give it 2 gig, or make it 4 just in case. We need something, and we'll store it as a single file. If we store the disk as multiple files, then we won't, when we flip it out for one file, it won't work right, probably, because we'll be flipping a couple of disk sections for one large disk. But let's finish that, and we now have a virtual machine that's powered off. And if I were to turn this on now, it would just show me that there's nothing there, because all we have right now is an empty hard drive because we didn't install an operating system. What I'm going to do though is, let's go to here is where my computer saved the virtual machine I just created. You can see that we do have a hard drive here. What I'm going to do is actually delete this one and give it the one that we converted. So we'll move that in there, give it a minute to move. And this is not supposed to take that long, but once it's moved it in there, we'll now be able to power on this machine. And assuming everything went well, what we've done is converted our DD image into a VMDK file, into a virtual machine disk, and created a virtual machine around it. And we'll then be able to boot from that hard drive, and we should be able to see the actual operating system and the actual drive that was on this before we started. That was on the original DD image. So it's done copying. Let's play this machine, and let's hope this works. So otherwise I gotta start the whole video over. And you can see that we booted, and we are now at a Ubuntu login, which I guess would make sense because the name of this file was UB, for I guess Ubuntu. But you can see that we've clearly booted into or started up this drive, and we can now either launch Ubuntu or install it, etc. But clearly flipping out the hard drives worked, and we've been able to completely convert our original DD image into a VMDK and build a virtual machine around it. So I hope this was beneficial and this is helpful. I think this can have a lot of potential if you want to actually use a machine that you made a copy of. So if you want to investigate it this way. So I hope you gained something from this video. Thanks for listening and have a good day.